Saturday Night Live life recovery meeting. We're zooming from in our Saturday Night Live room, and I'm gonna have to fix that here in a moment. But anyway, we got several folks with us, and we've had some people come on, and we may have already lost a few already, but we may have some more jump on. But we're glad that you're here, and you know, I just want to welcome you, and I want to start off with a breathing exercise because I think breathing is really important. And from a neuroscientist that I got this method from, his name is Andrew Huber. He's from Stanford. He says that this double breath actually affects you biologically, chemically. It does something to your lungs. It affects your heart. It helps your mind. It calms you down. It does a lot of different things. And he says if you do one of these, it helps. If you do two of them, it's even better. If you do three, it's really good. So we're going to do that right now. And what we do is we breathe in. It's best to breathe in through your nose and out your mouth. We're going to breathe in through our nose, and I'm going to say inhale 1, inhale 2, and then I'll say exhale. So inhale 1, inhale 2, exhale. Just natural. Inhale 1, inhale 2, exhale. Now think of something that you're grateful for. Inhale 1, inhale 2, and exhale. All right. And think about that you're grateful for. I'm going to turn it over to Zach. Take it away, Zach.
All right, well, welcome to, oh, that sounds really bad over here. Does that sound okay over there?
Sounds good.
Okay. I had some feedback, I guess. Well, welcome to Saturday Night Live, and we're glad.
I just muted you. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I'm unmuted now.
I muted. I did. I meant to hit my button so I wouldn't interfere, and look what I did. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's all right. It's a good reminder that we got to mute ourselves. So, welcome to Saturday Night Live. We're glad you're here. And if you watch this tonight or you watch it later some other time, just drop us a message and let us know what you think or that you were here. We like seeing those. And if you need anything, need prayer or anything, put it in the message, and we are going to get right into it tonight then. So without further ado, please welcome Kate. She's going to read the 12 steps for us.
All right, step 1, we admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. Step 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. Step 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. Step 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Step 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. Step 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. Step 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and became willing to make amends to them all. Step 9, we made direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Step 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. Step 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. And step 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs.
All right. Thank you, Kate. And so we are going to move on to our step tonight, and Tommy's going to do that for us. And we are working on step 2 because it's February. So please welcome Tommy.
Hello, everybody. I'll start by reading in the Black Recovery Bible here. It's on page 1081. It's Grandiose Thinking. It says the Bible reading is Daniel 4:19-33. We came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. When we are caught up in our addictions, it's common for us to deny the truth about our situation with grandiose thinking. We may believe that we are above it all, a God unto ourselves, unaccountable to no one. In his day, Nebuchadnezzar, king of ancient Babylon, was the most powerful ruler on earth. He believed that he was a god and demanded to be worshipped. Through Daniel, God said to him, "This is what the Most High has declared will happen to you. You will be driven from human society, and you will live in the fields with the wild animals until you learn that the Most High rules over the kingdoms of the world and gives them to anyone he chooses." That's Daniel 4:24-25. This happens just as Daniel had predicted. At the end of the king's time in exile, he said, "I looked up to heaven, my sanity returned, and I praised and worshiped the Most High and honored the one who lives forever. When my sanity returned to me, so did my honor and glory and kingdom, with even greater honor than before. Now I, Nebuchadnezzar, praise and glorify and honor the kingdom of heaven. All his acts are just and true, and he is able to humble the proud. We are not God. We are accountable to God, a higher power. The higher power can remedy our madness and restore our lives to be even better than they were before our season of insanity. God will do so if we entrust our lives to him." That's very true. I got into these questions here in the workbook, and I had a hard time answering those. I don't know if it's something I'm not ready to face or what, but it says here, it says, when in my addiction, in what ways did I display the belief that I was only accountable to myself? And I put, by having no regard of how my decisions affected others, doing what I wanted when I wanted. And then number two is, how have I tried to have power over the events, outcomes, and people in my life? And I put, by doing things my way, in my time, by my rules. In what ways did I show that I forgot that God is ultimately in control? By going back to my addiction and returning to that insanity in that place where I was in grandiose type thinking, How have I avoided acceptance of God's power over my life? I put spending money and time with ungodly people, and I don't know what I wrote. I guess that's good enough. But yeah, I just thinking about this, really touched a spot in my life because I seen something about grandiose thinking, and when I started studying about grandiosity, it started talking about narcissistic people and antisocial people and bipolar disorder, and those are kind of all the things that when I was going through my therapy that they tried to label me as. So it kind of opened up something in myself to where I started thinking, if I work on some of the ways where, I think I'm important and all these different things I'm probably really not that important in, that I shouldn't be wasting my time even having anything to do with, that some of these psychological things they've put on me or labeled me as will go away. And that's all I got. Unless
All right, thank you, Tommy. That was really, really good. And we're going to move on to the reflection now, and Alicia is going to do that for us. So please welcome Alicia.
Can everybody hear me? Can everybody hear me?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me, Tommy?
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Joe?
we can hear you, but we can't, you're frozen, but we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Well, I read different questions, but then I realized whenever Tommy was on the grandiose thinking questions, and I did have read about Daniel and know about Nebuchadnezzar, and I like what it says in the book. I'll read a little bit of it, and then I can relate to this topic. We may become grandiose like Nebuchadnezzar and think that we have the right to declare how life should revolve around us, our needs and our wishes. This king looked at his success and began to claim the credit for himself. He lost the humility of remembering that God's rules and gives power to success in anyone who chooses. His grandiosity of thought and attitude was revealed by the dream that he had that Daniel interpreted. Daniel pleaded with him to turn his sin of grandiose thinking, but his ego was hooked by the pride of accomplishment. My own power, mighty power, I have built this beautiful city as my royal residence to display my majestic splendor. God did not allow Nebuchadnezzar to continue this way. He was humbled with God by a season of insanity and grazed with the cattle until he acknowledged God's power and sovereignty. I'll just kind of stop there. I remember deciding in 2009 that I didn't want to do drugs anymore. I didn't want to live the way I was living. And I remember starting to go to church and everything and getting into a program and surrendering things. And I was absolutely insane. But I don't think that I knew it then. You know, I just thought that I would stop doing everything and everything, maybe I would stop this. And, I remember we were allowed to smoke in the program that I was in, smoke cigarettes. And I know that I did not give that up. And then as time went by, I was on a lot of medication as always. And I was from 2002 to 2019. And I gave up all the medications, but I hung on to one. And it seemed like a small one, but I still felt like I had issues, but wasn't willing or knew that I had to admit to any of those because of pride and anger and other things that I had inside that I hadn't dealt with, and emotional pain and trauma, that I didn't recognize as something that I had to hand over to God and cast down that imagination, the thinking, that I was better than everybody else and that I didn't have these problems. And just, I kept moving forward, in like the power mode. Well, I can conquer the world and I can do this now. And I'm happy and I'm not using, I'm not drinking, but I can still do whatever I want and it's okay, but I didn't even think that at the time. I didn't know that there was really anything wrong and that I had to surrender to a power greater than myself that could restore me to sanity, even though I was going to the altar at church, throwing myself down there, feeling guilty, feeling overwhelmed, feeling this pain that would not go away. And I couldn't pinpoint, nor did I know that I had to. Anyways, I was serving in the church and doing this and doing that and trying to find my spot, but nothing had changed. I was still in my thinking. I was a mess, so obviously when I held on to these certain things and then was approached with completely moving forward in a sense of a promotion, I cowered, got completely drunk, and then the shame came back on me and I was in bondage all over again, and then eventually went back out full force. Then I would have periods of time in my own power, in my own devices, in my own way. And it was just repetitive. I mean, I was absolutely ignorant, you know. So like finally realizing that my way, you know, was not the best way. And the whole unraveling of it all has been extremely, and to even admit when I realized that I was dealing with all this pride last year, you know, I asked the Lord to take that from me, you know, to take it out of my heart. You know, I was so stubborn, and I thought everything I said was just the way it was, and it wasn't true, you know. And to bring down those walls one at a time, let God break them down, and to break things off me has been amazing. I'm sure we can all relate to what it's like to be like Nebuchadnezzar. I remember, let's see, 2002 to 2009, I completely was insane for 7 years like him. I mean, I didn't have claws or feathers or anything, but, you know, I absolutely acted in ignorance and unbelief. And when I started realizing, coming to a knowledge of the truth, realizing really that I had to completely humble myself, get on my hands and knees, and have God take control in every area of my life was the only way that I was ever going to make it, and to allow grace to change me. So, I mean, it's been a journey. It's been, you know, all the problems that I realized that I had, and to keep admitting them, you know, and to pursue and press on. And if I can get through the pain of coming off all that medication that I was on, you know, I had an antipsychotic to cover another antipsychotic, you know, and I'm not saying nobody should stop taking their medication, you know, and I had another antidepressant together, and it wasn't working, you know. But really, I remember people telling me, "You're not crazy." You know, I've been labeled everything. I've been labeled with borderline personality disorder, bipolar, social anxiety, agoraphobia, social phobia. I mean, except for, you know, I think schizophrenia. I never got labeled with that, but, you know, it just wasn't true, you know. But the whole healing process and the unraveling and the, you know, allowing myself to be controlled by my God, you know, and get out of the way has worked for me completely.
Well, can I ask you a question
Yes.
about what you just said?
I
Is
gotta
that all?
plug my phone. Yeah,
Is that
yeah,
all right? Okay,
yeah.
because you're kind of new with us here. You know, you've been in and out, but a couple of weeks. So I wanted to make sure I got permission before I start asking you some questions. And if it's something that you're not able to answer or you don't want to answer, just say, you know, you don't want to answer that, or you pass, or something like that. Okay, because I'm not into forcing anybody to do anything. So and your story is great. It lines up with Nebuchadnezzar and what's going on there. So that's really great. And I just had some thoughts as you was going through that probably can help some people. And the first question is, how did it feel when you were going from that grandiose mindset? Because you described it really well, because you thought you were you had it all right and everybody else was all wrong. And how did you make that, how did you come to turn that around, and how did it feel?
Well, I never stopped allowing myself, or acknowledging God, like, and allowing Him to work in me. You know, last year, I had a big blowout. I got high 3 times because I was still trying to deal with things in my own way. And can you ask me the question again?
Sure. Um, when you were working on, you were in your insanity phase, extreme insanity phase, and you said, and you didn't even know it, okay? Because that's a real key to folks that are in that insanity phase. And by the way, we're all insane to some degree anyway. And if you don't think you are, you're the people we're talking to right now. And so, so we have. So my question is, when you're in the middle of that transition, like Nebuchadnezzar, he went through a time that he was detached and on his own, but his mind and spirit was able to process and clear. And I don't have him to ask, but I have you to ask. So how did that feel to you?
It was probably the suffering. The last year has been bittersweet, but it's been also some of the worst and the best part of my recovery, and I will never go through that again. With those particular issues, I know that I am completely done using drugs, and I can say that and mean it. Even though I had a significant amount of time clean, and I don't care about the time. It's the repercussions and what happens each time you go back out, or you allow that in your life at any time, after making certain decisions and coming to terms with yourself. It's insane to keep doing that. Of
Yeah.
course, that's the insanity of it. But like, I
Let me ask another question. Is that all right?
yeah, yeah. After what happened, like, it was 7 times worse, man. And anyways, to get on my hands and knees and to completely tell God that I was sorry, for everything that I'd ever done, and to honor everything that he was asking me to stop doing, and to surrender my thoughts and my attitude. And I asked God to change my behavior for the first time in my life. And
Right.
he didn't change it immediately. He took me all through this rigmarole of testing me around other people, the ladies that I was living with. He would put me in situations where this would happen, that would happen. And he's like, I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that she did that to me, or this just happened. And he's like, it's over, it's finished. And then to move on to the next one, until I finally learned how to get along with other human beings and myself, has been amazing, to know that I can have a relationship with myself and other human beings, instead of just being the isolated person in my own little world, and thinking things are rainbows and unicorns, and they're not. Um,
That's
it's absolutely, I realized that I was delusional last year too, whenever the COVID hit. I spent a lot of time alone with God, getting right and making sure that it was right this time, instead of like, oh, well, you know.
And that's exactly what my next question is pertaining to, because I've been teaching the last while about the importance of getting your thinking, your spirit, your thoughts, and your heart in alignment. And if we can do that, because oftentimes we the biggest war is in the inside of ourselves. Would you agree with that? And can you speak to that in your process?
Absolutely. Like, what I did was say over and over again, was create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. Because I was absolutely lost. I mean, like, I was so ate up with the isms and like everything, every thought that I had ever thought, and anything that I was thinking was leading me back to the same crap, you know. And I wanted victory. And I really realized for the first time in my life what I needed, what I wanted, and what I didn't need, and what I needed to let go of. And was it really worth it? Was trivial, some of the stupid stuff that, you know, had me in bondage, my thinking, you know, it really was the whole unraveling of it. Like, it seems so simple. If I would have known it was that simple, I would have done it years ago, you know. But the pain, letting go of pain and trauma, you know, and even like this last time, not just the last relapse that I had, because, you know, I told you that I've been clean for a while and it was just me and God this time, and I'm doing it for myself and God. But when my husband passed away, that was horrible. The traumatic experience of finding him, you know, passed away and everything. I had never self-sabotaged or tried to, you know, I mean, that was bad, you know, where my head went with that. And it was, like I said, it was worse than ever. Um, you know, thinking that I could carry all that on my own and that I had to, you know, I meant for that, you know, to carry all those feelings and emotions and chaos and drama. And, you know, I'm not meant to carry somebody else's pain and trauma too over into my life and then finish myself off in the process, you know.
That's good. Thanks, Alicia. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Hey, you said something, if you knew it was so simple, you'd have done it long ago. And what was that thing that you said was so simple, you would have done long ago? Say that again.
Surrender.
What was that?
The whole
What was that one thing you said was so simple? Would you say it again?
surrender.
Okay, I was just playing with you. We say important things 3 times, so that makes it 3, right?
Yeah. And ALL is a 3-letter word. Yeah.
All right, thanks. I'm gonna pass it back over to Zach, okay? What was
Well,
that?
huh?
I just, that, you gave me the eye there to start off with, so.
Well, thanks, Alicia. And we will just please welcome Doug.
Okay, all right. Well, again, I want to start off with asking if anybody has anything to say about what's been said so far. And I encourage you to share. Tommy, I'm going to start off with you. I'm going to ask you, did that stir up any thoughts while Alicia and I was going through that?
Yes,
Would you like to share them?
I kept thinking how far Alicia's came in her recovery. And even though I'm not using, I would like to be that far myself. I really did think about that because, like, I just get choked up when it comes to talking about my stuff now. Like, I don't want to be in this place where I'm like, I can't share about how, you know, that's where I was at. And I was listening and soaking it up and, you know, yeah.
Thanks, Tommy.
Well,
Angie, you have anything you'd like to say? Are you sure? I can't hear you.
No, I'm good. I struggle with that a lot, Grandiose, the thinking process anyway. So the internal bondage really gets you.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you're here with us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, John, you have anything you want to share?
The battlefield is truly in the mind. If we can get a grasp on our thinking and our thought processes and stuff like this, we will be a lot better people than we have been in the past.
Good, John. Good. Hey, I noticed Lisa disappeared. Hey, Zach, is Lisa around? I'm coming to her right after Alicia. Go ahead, Alicia.
Like I was talking about it being simple, like in every area, like he was talking about the thoughts, it's literally a choice as you come to each area of your life, surrender. You're hoping, you're believing, you have faith, you give God control, repeat over and over and over again in every area, and admit that you cannot do it on your own. Whatever it is, each time you face a mountain or you go through a valley or you come to a place where you know that you're powerless, to keep doing it over and over and over again, and to not give up until those things, they're removed. The character defects are removed from your life, and it is a process. It is you know getting that crap, that thinking out of your head. And a lot of it stems from our hearts, because our hearts are completely broken, and of course we're twisted up like a pretzel, and we can't even think, and we don't even know what the hell's going on, pardon my French. For real, we have no idea. Like I said, I had no idea that I even needed a healing. And once the healing starts, it's painful. And when you start to get over each and every area of healing, you can go a little further. Well, if I got over that, I can get over the next thing. And I just keep moving forward and keep believing and keep having faith and hoping, and trusting the process, and knowing that there's something better on the other side, and there is a victory, and we are victorious. We're not victims, we're victors, and we're not helpless and harassed. We humble ourselves and we come to God, and we know that He can remove those things, and that He will do what He says He's going to do, because He's just, and His word will not return void.
Good. So, is Lisa there? Does Lisa want to have anything to say? No? Zach, you got anything you'd like to add? And Kate, come on down.
Hello.
Something you like to share. Let's have some super wisdom.
No, I don't have anything. I thought it was good.
All right. Okay, well, thanks for letting us have a chance to see you anyway. So,
Welcome.
all right. Well, then, thanks, and we'll go back to me. How about that? All right.
Sounds good.
All right. What this subject tonight, and I should have said something in our opening, but I failed to do so. So anyway, but Tommy kind of touched it, that this grandiose thinking. And by the way, Tommy, that was Tommy's first step, and I thought he did a really good job. So thumbs up, and everybody else needs to give me a thumb up too. All right. So anyway, there we go. You got thumbs up around. I don't know if you can see them, but they're giving you. Oh, John gave you 2 thumbs. So, but anyway, grandiose thinking is really, it's a pretty complex, big subject, and because there's so many different avenues in this, and it's so the potential for affecting us is real, and it can grab a hold of you. And the thing of it is, as Alicia said, you're not even aware of it. You don't when oftentimes when you have the grandiose mindset, you don't, to use the term of you're in that state of insanity. You're not even aware of it, and that's a part of our brain, I believe, that's trying to defend us because and I think even now, this is Doug's theory, okay, by just what I've studied and put together. I think it's part of our brain that we had it's a survival mechanism to try to block out everything because of our fears. We continually keep distorting reality, and our brain is trying to keep us safe, and we just feed that delusion, and it's bigger and bigger and bigger. Our brain is designed to try to create connections and order, but if we're in a panic mode, we actually restrict our ability to be logical, according to neuroscience. It literally shuts down parts of our brain. And Nebuchadnezzar here, the story we read out of Daniel 4, 20, 24 and 25, he didn't start off this way. God was working with him and bringing him along. And if you look at the whole book of Daniel, he gave him a dream earlier in the book that Daniel told him what the dream was and told the interpretation, and that because he was experiencing the revelation of who God is, and so we need to realize that if we just listen to the end of the story that we read here about him being pulled away from society, and he roamed the grass and ate grass, and his hair was as big as eagle feathers, and he had claws like eagles. His fingernails got the size of eagle claws, and that it almost sounds unfair. And actually, I even had that thought. I said, there could be some unfairness. You could think that this is unfair, but wait a minute. God had worked with him through that other dream that nobody else in his kingdom could do, but Daniel told him what the dream was and the interpretation. And then this situation, he had the dream, and he was warned. He was warned that, hey, you're messing up. How many of us have been warned? All of us. How many times? Multiple times, right? Right? That's the truth. That's the truth. And the rest of the reality is, don't be mad at Nebuchadnezzar, because he didn't listen, and neither did we. Right? And but I want to go all the way to the end of the story right now before I even get too far into this. Even though he messed up severely, even though he discounted all the interaction God had worked with him and communicated to him, God still restored to him, helped him to clear his mind up, very similar to what you were talking about, Alicia, helped him to clear his mind up, and the gifts and the talents that he had before the event, people started coming to him after he came to the place that he was not insane anymore, and he worshiped God. People started coming to him, and he was reinstated, not because of his position, but because of his gifting, because what God had given him. And my point here is, even though he messed up severely, anybody here ever messed up severely? If you didn't raise your hand, you're a liar. You just messed up again. And so, and we all have messed up. I'm raising both of them. And if I wasn't sitting under this table and mess up the video, I'd raise my feet because we've done it. Even after we've been warned, there's something in our brain that says, well, maybe I can make it this time. Maybe I don't have to listen. Or maybe I can get away with this time and I'll do better in the future. We've done that. But the fact of it is, things will run out. And so when we're caught up in addiction, it's common for us to deceive ourselves. I can do it this time. I'll get by with it this time. You know, this isn't nearly as bad as what I've done in the past, and he forgave me in the past and restored me in the past. So I just might as well try it again. But like Alicia said, it can be 7 times worse. And I've heard that story from so many people, you know, because we didn't really value what we had and we threw it away. And now, and that's the way it is. That's the way we humans are. We didn't realize how important it was and how good it was, how real it was. And now I see what I'm missing. And we oftentimes say or think, you know, all I want to do is get back to where I was. All I want to do is get out of this pit, this sewage pit that I'm in. And even though I deserve it, and sometimes we so deserve it that we don't even let ourselves receive forgiveness or forgive ourselves, but God wants to forgive you and restore you. I had a professor one time when I was going to Pittsburgh College that came up to me, and he was a professor and I was a student, okay? And I was a new Christian. And I don't know, just a few months, maybe 3-4 months, maybe not even that much. I don't know. I don't know how I even knew how to answer this question. But he said, I got a question for you. How do I know if I've committed the unpardonable sin? And the unpardonable sin is that you can't be forgiven. And he had been taught that he committed the unpardonable sin. And if you committed that, then you can't be forgiven. Now, the fact of it is, well, let me tell you what I told him. I said, and I'm not going to use his name. He's passed away now. He's a great guy. He really added to my life. But I said, if you are concerned enough and the Holy Spirit's dealing with you to even ask that question, have I committed the unpardonable sin? I say he's working with you and you haven't committed it, because he said that he wouldn't have anything to do with you. If you commit that, because you'd harden yourself so much that he's not able to reach you. And if you're asking that question, he's dealing with you. And he stopped and he thought about it. His dad was a preacher. His brother was a preacher. Okay. You kind of get the picture. All right. And he used to sing in a quartet. Okay. And so he said, that's a good answer. And he knew the Bible. Okay. And so, and this was, gosh, that was before my wife and I got married. This was in 1973, and my wife and I got married in September of 73. And so this was this. How can that be? Well, maybe this was in 74. Because no, it was in 73. I'm having this discussion with myself. I'm sorry. And so far I'm losing. And so anyway, well, the reason why I'm saying that, because while we were on our anniversary, he came to the church. The church was here in Joplin, and the school was in Pittsburgh, and he lived somewhere in that area, and I don't want to say specifically. And so he came when we were gone, which is my point in my story. And it wasn't long that his life turned around, because he realized he was living under a delusion, okay, which is similar to grandiose thinking, and it was destroying his life. And he turned it around. Things got better, got way better. And so when when we deceive ourselves, and that's how I got onto that track, when we deceive ourselves with grandiose thinking, we may believe that we're above everything. Alicia kind of referred to that a while ago, and that we act like we're a god to ourselves. This professor was acting like a god to himself, because he wouldn't forgive himself, because he was believing a lie, and he knew better, but it's hard. It's hard. And so, and we all, the bottom line here, we all know there is a higher power, and that and we're accountable to someone, and we know that. And Nebuchadnezzar knew that. He'd had those experiences with God. God even gave him a warning, okay? A warning that he needed to move, he needed to shift his life, because he knew that God had given him the power to do exactly what he was doing. But, you know, anytime somebody and a little bit of power, or they win the lottery or something, it overwhelms them. It messes with your mind, okay? And sometimes even when we get clean, or we get saved, or we get things straightened around, sometimes the success can get us. There's 2 times we have to be careful about we need to be aware of potential relapse, when we mess up and when we succeed. Okay, does that make sense? When we mess up and when we succeed, because we can get overwhelmed. We get self-critical, or we think we become invincible. So we have to be careful. We need to do our best to stay plugged in and be grounded with the truth, with healthy people around us that helps us, that will give us healthy feedback, and say, you know, help us to keep grounded, so we don't get grandiose in our thinking or too high-minded. Even Romans talks about that we're not to think that we're greater than anybody else, or that we're even lower than anybody else, that we're all connected, we're all the same, okay? And that we needed to have that. So Nebuchadnezzar, he made a big mistake, because he declared himself as God, as the creator of this city. And he had been warned, I think like a month before, if I remember, according to the interpretation of the dream. So it wasn't like he did it and then it was next day. You know, sometimes when we know, listen, I've done it. I'm not any better than anybody else. I've had that knowing, and I knew it was from God, that I should not do that. And it wasn't really even, it wasn't in this particular case I'm talking about right now, it wasn't even a bad thing. In fact, it was a good thing when I did it, but I knew I wasn't supposed to do it, is the point. All right. And I did something, and what I did, I put a test out to it. Okay, I'm gonna tell you the situation. I was working for myself, and a woman that owned a business wanted me to do something for her, and I told her I didn't have time. And she started crying, and she said, just give me a price, just give me a price. And so I thought, I just want her to leave me alone. And so I gave her a large price on this job, doubled it, I think. And I figured she wouldn't take it, and she took it. And I knew I wasn't supposed to take the job, even though I said, well, you know, and I thought, well, I'm going to have to get some help to be able to get this done with everything that was going on. And the rest of the story was, I got the help. We did the job. We did it. I really didn't make any money because I really was trying to help somebody else. It was another way to kind of pay off God, to try to keep me in the graces. All right. To do something good for somebody that really needed some help and some money. He made good money. I didn't make much, but I was doing a good deed. But every time I drove by that place, it was like I knew it was coming. Okay. And it finally came. And I didn't make any money before. And now everything that we had to do cost me time and material. And I thank God, okay, because I said, this is a lesson that I want to remember, okay? Sometimes our grandiose thinking is, well, if I make a deal with God, then I've got it covered. Has anybody ever done that? You don't have to answer that, just a question. So Nebuchadnezzar, when things turned around, when things cleared, because if we will stay breathing, if you feel hopeless, if you feel lost, if you feel overwhelmed, if you'll just do what Leisha said earlier, come to that place, let things wind down, surrender, forgive yourself, make amends, all right? Forgive, let things clear. Your sanity will start to return. You make those healthy steps, and then the next thing you'll know, things will be starting to go together. It's happening. It does happen. Happens all the time. But you have to be willing to stay alive, keep breathing, and stop. You know, one old statement is, you know, if you're digging in a pit over your head and you're trying to get out, the first thing is stop digging it deeper. Okay. All right. So we must remember that we are not gods. Can we remember that? We must remember we are not gods. We're accountable to the higher power, God. He can remedy us. When we finally allow ourselves to come to that place, like Alicia said, surrender. When we will finally stop going our way or living off our plan or making those deals, I'll do this, God, you do that. This can be even a great deal. It can be a ministry. I've done that one too, and I'm not going to talk about that. I said, I'll do this in the ministry, and you take care of this problem over here. It didn't work out, okay? Doesn't work out. You have to deal with your stuff. You can't offset it with a deal, all right? Can't negotiate your way through it. You have to deal with your stuff. Just similar to what Alicia was sharing in the reflection. So he can remedy it. He can deal with our madness. Now, sometimes it clears slowly. Just as our insanity came on sometimes, usually slowly. It creeps up on us. And the next thing we know, we're in the dark. And he'll restore our lives and make them better, even though we went through a time of insanity. He wants us healed spiritually, mentally, emotionally, physically, socially, financially, relationship wise, in every area. And I actually took longer to do that than I'd planned. I did some research. Let me ask a question. Anybody have any comments before I go in to the things I researched? If you do, raise your hand. No, no, no. All right, Alicia. Let's see if I can go here. All right, Alicia.
If you'll just trust the process and not be offended by it when things come your way that God wants you to work on. When you get offended, it trips you up if you stay offended, and then it keeps you in that that fallback, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back type thing over and over again. The ideas and the reasoning, like you were talking about, the rationalization and the reasoning of, well, maybe why it's, you've got to allow that pain to come out and to receive that healing and to get through it. If you don't trust that, then you're never going to get anywhere. You'll always be stuck and going around that same mountain like the Israelites for 40 years. I mean, like, that's our best example there of insanity, I think, that we have in the Word of God. So, I mean, it's just, what's that little saying? Curse it, disperse it, don't rehearse it and reverse it type thing. You just gotta, it'll all work itself back out to where you are better than ever and on your way to celebrate not knowing any of it's like, and yourself to truly be living and alive.
We're losing you. You're going wobbly. And so, and that's good information, Alicia. That's good stuff, and I appreciate it. And the you said something that I wanted to go back on. Oh, I remember what it was. Last week, one of the things we talked about in internal bondage was having bottled up feelings, and you made a comment about the hurt inside and how it drives us, and that we pretend that there is no hurt, or we actually to the place that you can mentally block it out, but it still emotionally drives us. And we have to address that hurt, and we have to work on that. And we need, as we talked about last week, we have to stop living with bottled up feelings. We have to let that out. Now, I'm not saying that there's a process to that, and there are wrong ways to do that, but for the most part, we need to understand that there are sometimes unconsciously, there are some things driving us because of past hurts. And Tommy raised his hand, so I'm going to go give you a shot, Tommy.
You were saying bottled up feelings and stuff. Well, I notice when I don't deal with stuff and I bottle it all up, like I form this false reality so that I could not deal with what's going on, and everything gets totally out of whack.
That's good. That's good, Tommy. I appreciate that. I did some research. Was there anybody else that wanted to say anything before I get into the research that I did some research on types of delusions of grandeur, which is basically another way to say grandiose thinking, and that there are 4 main character traits, they say. All right. This is from the healthline.com. And so they said there's 4 traits. You you may want to, sometimes this is for us to look at ourselves, or maybe also to help to understand that other folks can have this. This isn't exhaustive, I'm sure, but this is what they said. And so number one, it says the person having the belief believes it is true even when the existing norm and other people know it is untrue. You know, I've talked with people that they had this going on. They had this paranoia. They believed that people were doing things to them, that people were outside yelling at them, breaking into their house, stealing stuff, all kinds of stuff. Not that can't happen, but the fact of it is, even though they're telling me this is going on, they also will say, I know this is crazy, but this is what I'm thinking. I know this is the way it is, even though I know it's probably not so. Right? And so and sometimes, so I'm saying this can be a character trait. Doesn't mean that that's necessarily means that they're having delusions of grandeur. It's just one of the character traits. Okay. Number two, the person having the delusion will not listen to any other viewpoint without about the belief, and will not consider change when evidence challenges their delusion. In other words, even though there's evidence that comes in and that information comes in, they will rigidly stick to it. Now, even some say that when you do that, you even make their delusion worse. Okay? They don't say it, they didn't say it, some others have said it, but even when you challenge someone's false belief like that by trying to convince them that they're wrong, it reinforces that negative false belief that they say. So you might ask, well, then what do you do? Well, now this is tricky. I don't even know if I should say this or not. The idea is this, that you don't, they already know that it's crazy. And so you don't, because even if they say, I know you don't believe me, if you tell them you do believe them, they know that you don't believe them because they know it's not really believable. But they're believing it anyway, even though they know. Does that sound like anybody you've ever seen before? You don't have to answer that. And so what you do is one of the best ways you can do is help them is try to find out and ask them the question, what is it that your this way of thinking gets you? What does this do for you? What's the benefit of this? If this is going on, what's the benefit of this? And that helps. They don't have to defend it. Now they have to try to communicate what they're getting out of it, and that helps them process it. Now, I know that's kind of tricky stuff, but I felt like I needed to go ahead and tell you, so I did. So, all right. So, see, these things are complicated, all right? And that's what I said in the beginning, right? So the third one is that the content of the delusion is impossible and improbable. That it's basically restating stuff that was other. And number four, and when I've had people that's come out of their insanity that talked about what they talked about, and they knew then that how distorted it was. Okay. Yes, Tommy.
I was thinking some of our conversations back in like 2005, and I was wondering, gosh, just the things that came out of my mouth and the things that were going on in my mind, the delusions and the lies that I believed, that's all. That was my thought.
Well,
But you
and
still listen, to
what?
me though. Still
Yeah,
communicating.
yes, and that's I I I didn't even know everything that I talked about here a minute ago.
Then
But do what?
you didn't know it then.
I didn't know it in a I didn't know the science behind what I was doing. Okay, I knew I was operating off what I believe was the truth that God had given me about the number one power of the universe, which is God, which is love. And that's that's my centerpiece that I try to operate off of. And what I was trying to do, even in those states, I tried, not that I was perfect at it, but I tried my best to try to love you.
Thank you.
I didn't approve of everything. No.
Oops.
But that didn't keep me from loving you. And so that's what we were doing with that. Would you agree with that, Tommy?
Yes.
All right. Okay. I'm going to get back to my topics. Okay. Because we're over time, and I have one more here. And the delusion impacts. This is number 4. The delusion impacts the person's daily life. So if this delusion is impacting the person's daily life, if it's running them, pushing them, causing them to act certain ways, behavioral wise, we could start talking about them, from isolating themselves from everyone, or to having grandiose thinking and thinking that they're God or Jesus, and so and if it affects them, because I've had people come in and talk to me and tell me, and this is hard, this is really hard, and this is even hard to say right now, but they would use religious terminology and say things that is hard. It's hard to handle the situation, because they're saying God has told them things, and it may be right, and maybe it's just a little bit off, but I'll use this illustration. I had a man come in one time, and he was had been taking a substance, and I'm not even gonna say the substance, but he was taking a substance, and he said, I'm clean, I'm clean, I'm clean, I'm never going to use it anymore, I'm done, God knows I'm done, this is it forever. And so, and he'd had a struggle for a long time, and he was in church, and he was doing good, and he was even in church when he was using, okay, but he'd made that point. But I said, because the fact of it is, hey Zach, would it be all right for me to say that could be possibly grandiose thinking? Okay, he gave me a thumbs up. And so what I said to this man, I told him a little bit of a story about boxers, that the first thing from what I understand, you train boxers, you train them that when you get knocked down, that you you get back up. Your first thought, your only thought is get up. You don't try to figure out how you get knocked down. You don't try to figure out what happened. You don't figure out how long you've been there. You don't figure out how much time it's going to you have left. You don't think about it. You just get back up. You just get after it. And so, and I've seen boxers, I've seen them on TV where they got knocked down and you saw them, man, they got back up. But they were still unconscious. It was so ingrained in them, they got back up and then they fell back over. But the thing of it is that and I told this man, I said, I appreciate what you're saying here, but if by chance that you use again, you need to have a plan what to do. Okay, you got to have a plan to go into that you don't have to figure out, that you don't have to think about, that you just know what you're supposed to do. And this is the plan. Stop, get up, get back where you were. Stand up, just like the boxer. Stand up. And he got mad at me. Okay, he got mad because I said that he was potentially going to use again. And I didn't say that. I just said if. I tried to be gentle. But I guess he got my drift that I thought that there's a high probability that it may happen again because most people learn how to stay clean. I know this is touchy, but most people learn how to stay clean by going through a relapse and figuring out that's not what I want to do. That's not my life. You gain evidence from that it's not worth it. The cost is too high. I don't want to be there. I don't like me when I do that. I don't like the world even when I do that. I don't have to try. After a while, you have to make the decision, but it's hard to make that shift. But after a while, you've got the evidence, you got the information, you got the power to turn that around. You have to reconstitute your brain and your habits that you have, because you have to stop all kinds of habits that you've developed. You have to create new habits, create new lifestyles, create new friends, create new places, things, and turn your life around. And I've gone to preach it again, haven't I? Sorry about that. But anyway, and so he got mad at me. He was, and he never came back. Okay, hang on a second. I got to finish the end of the story. He got mad at me, and he didn't come back for a long time. But after he had a relapse, and he figured out what I was telling him, he came back and he says, Doug, I want to tell you was right. You told me the truth, even though I didn't want to listen to it. And I said, I'm sorry. And I was sorry. I didn't want him to relapse. I just wanted him to be ready. Okay, just like the boxer, because no boxer goes into the ring wanting to be knocked down, right? But if you do, and the probability is it's probably going to happen, you need to have a plan. Alicia, you had your hand up? You're on mute.
Okay. Well, you were talking about getting bold or whatever, but like I was writing all this stuff down, the 4 things and the delusions, and the first one, it's like we have a disorder or disorders that gives us these false beliefs, and then being offended and then thinking it's impossible, you're denying, you're not believing that anything can change, and then how it impacts your character. And I'm thinking in a spiritual sense, because like I know what happened to me. And I had to relapse one more time before I was able to, be sure that I would not use again and that it totally was not worth it. And how that plays out. But like, it's just profound how evil all that is, the whole delusional part of it, not being able to think right for some reason. And I'm not going to take it a step further, but it's significant and apparent what will happen to you if you do go back out there. And God will make you, he'll take you through something. And you said that you told that young man to have a plan. Well, even if we don't, and all that crap, that delusion falls off, you're like literally left just like this. And then you're willing to do anything that God asks you to do after that takes place.
Hopefully, hopefully, and that's
I mean, hopefully, yeah.
and but even when we mess up, and even though we heard the truth, but we denied the truth, like Nebuchadnezzar, God is still gracious to work with us. He's gracious. He's gracious.
Yeah, that's when the grace and the favor comes in.
And I want everybody to know that, okay? You may not forgive you. You should, you have to, you need to. God has. And who do you think you are not to forgive yourself unless you're God? And if you won't forgive yourself, you're in that grandiose thinking right now that you have, because you're acting like you have more power than God, because you have put yourself over God. And please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Let's see. It's we've gone quite a while. I have 12 other things that I was going to give on grandiose delusions, and that you can look at. And the fact of it is, we all have some of them. Okay, we all have some of them. And as I was thinking, as I went through them, most of the politicians we know have more than just some of these. And not saying that all politicians have these, but the ones that we know probably have a good portion of these because of that. But we all have some of them. Okay, we all have some of these behaviors. And I think hopefully I'd like to read them, if that'll be all right, and not comment on them. I'll try not to comment on them, and maybe I can be done in 8 minutes and be done by 8:30. How about that? Sounds good? Whether you nodded or not, I'm not even gonna look at the screen. Okay, I'll take it as yes. Number one, exaggerating your own achievements. Okay, exaggerating your own achievements. Number two, criticizing and dismissing others' achievements or talents. Okay, these are examples of grandiose thinking. Okay. Number three, constantly boasting and talking about yourself. Okay, if you do that, you may be operating grandiose thinking. I said may be. Okay, all right. Number four, believing yourself to be infallible or invulnerable. So if you're doing that, you could be, not absolutely, but you could be, or you have some grandiose thinking, or those people that you see that way could be in some of that. And something you said a while ago, Alicia, about these disorder, and I want to clarify disorder. We talking about we having disorders, and we all have disorders, and that disorder, mental disorder, is that we have disorder of mental thought. Where our thinking is disordered. Okay. It's not a disease. It's not bacterial. It's our disorder of thought. Okay, that's what it is. You can check me out and see if I'm wrong on that. Okay, but people say that, and they say it like it's a disease. Okay, and so it's And if we'll change our thinking, and exactly what we're talking about here, if we change our thinking, then we order our thoughts, we line our thoughts up, spirit, mental, emotional, our body, we line that up. And when we do that, we have positioned ourselves into a really receptive being that God is able to use. And I believe that in that he's able then to accomplish and bring good things into this earth through us that are willing to do that. Let's see, number 5, believing, I said I wasn't going to talk about them, didn't I? Believing that you are more intelligent than others, thinking that common rules do not apply to you. Number 7, acting selfishly. Number 8, treating others with disdain or contempt. 9, not caring if you hurt someone with your actions. Okay, of course, there's some, there are times you tell the truth, and it, I give us a talk about the difference between hurt and harm. Okay, I'm not going to go into it today. Number 10, being quick to anger. Okay, if you are challenged. So if you are quick to anger and you believe what's going on with you is more important than what somebody else, that their opinion is less than your opinion, maybe you could be operating in some delusional thought, or we'll use Alicia's term, disordered thought, right? Okay, all right, number 11. Hey, almost done. Being unable to see how your behavior, being unable, keyword is unable, to see how your behavior affects others. How many times have you thought, or you've heard others say, that what I'm doing only affects me? That is one of the biggest lies. Okay, one of the biggest lies, because what I do affects you and what you do affects me. We affect each other. Even if we don't have contact with each other, there's still that effect. How can I say that? Well, number 1, spiritually, that's communicated from the scriptures. And also, quantum physics says that according to the entanglement theory, there is the entanglement, and we are connected, okay? So you can either believe the science or you can believe the scriptures. And if you believe either one of them, they're the same thing. So in fact, science is confirming that the scriptures are true. How about that one? So if you disagree with that, you may have a touch of grandiose thinking. And yes, I don't have to be right, but check it out and see. All right. All right. I'm just playing with you. Number 12, being unable to see how unrealistic your beliefs and actions are. Okay. And this was out of an article that was written, was how to recognize a manic or hypermanic episode. And that was from it was verywellmind.com. So anyway, may the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his peace. And I want you to remember this: make healthy choices. I'm going to go to Zach. He was wanting to say something, so we'll let him say something and do whatever he's going to do from there, and then eventually take us out. So thanks, everybody. Here you go, Zachary. Oh, sorry.
It's all right. Hey, I was listening tonight and trying to decide if I wanted to weigh into this minefield or not. And so I do feel like I need to mention a couple of things here. And I want to say real quick, Alicia, I'm going to cover a couple of things that may be a little contradictory to something you said, but they're in no way against anything you said. Your story is your story, and if it worked for you, it worked for you. But not everybody may be where you are. Okay, and so we have to be careful with some stuff. So, you know, I myself have mental health issues. I have my own diagnoses. I understand that a diagnosis can feel like a label, and but and again, I'm not saying anything against you, Alicia, but a diagnosis is not a label, and we have to change our thinking with mental health. If you have somebody in your life treating you like there's something wrong with you because you have mental health and you're addressing it, then you're not the problem; they're the problem. And if they want to label you as damaged or that you have a deficiency some way or you're less than, they have a problem, not you. And you know, you never, ever, never, ever, 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 ever want to go off your medication and you're not on when you're not under a doctor's supervision. The truth is, these medications, they are messing with the chemistry in your brain. And doctors don't want to tell you that, but they are. They're messing with the chemistry in your brain because the fact is that you have a lot going on in your life, or there's not enough chemicals to go around, or your brain, you've been through some trauma in your life and your brain has shut some doors and opened some other ones so you could survive. And so, you know, think about it like a pie, and there's not enough pie to go around. And so the medicine's there to help you. The reality of it is, if you go off your medicine without a doctor's supervision, you could die. And that's not what a doctor told me. That's what I know because I've watched it happen. So I'm not trying to scare you out there, but I'm telling you the truth, that if you go off your medication without a doctor's help, you can die. Now, that being said, if you have a doctor that won't listen to you and won't help you, you need to fire them, because that's your right. And you need to find you a doctor that will listen to you and help you, because they can't keep you on medicine against your rights unless you've given up those rights by action or willfully by your signature and you have a guardian. And even then, you still have rights and you can pick a different doctor. I think I've already covered this, but you know, your mental health diagnosis does not lessen you. It does not minimize you. It's not a deficiency. You know, we all, like Doug says all the time, we all have mental health. You know, we all have disorder of some kind. We just have different degrees in different areas. You know, we're all just different. You know, there's a stigma out there, just like there is with substance use. You know, the elderly woman who has a glass of wine and takes a Valium, that's acceptable, but the Valium's not hers. You know, and that's the worst combination of drug you can do. People don't know that, but alcohol and pain meds is the worst combination of drug you can do. And so we have to change. We have to change the mindset. We have to educate people, and we have to get rid of the stigma. And then the other thing, there's other things. I'm be done. I'm sorry, Doug. We're trying to hurry. That, you know, a strong and healthy person addresses their mental health. You know, it's not easy to do that. You know, it can be a scary thing. You know, you're not a weak individual because you choose to address it. You know, there's a million people in the world who ignore it. You know, there are mental health providers who ignore their own mental health, and they work in the industry to help other people because they're not strong enough yet to help themselves. And that's a fact. And if you're addressing your own mental health, you may go see your doctor and you may be able to pick up on his mental health and he won't address it. yet. You know, the reality of it is that sometimes we have the undiagnosed treating the diagnosed, but maybe one day they'll be able to address their own. You know, and a lot of times in the mental health industry, you have the people that have a diagnosis because they know how it is, like people like myself, and they want to help other people, and so that's what they do. And so the last thing I want to say, and this is really controversial, so no one stone me and let me explain. Jesus alone is not enough. Jesus alone is not enough. We have to be very, very careful that we don't become the Christian just goes off by herself with no accountability and decides that, oh, it's just me and Jesus. We got this. And the reason being is that Jesus never said that he never meant for it to be just you and him. Or he would not constantly push you into relationships with other people all the time because he didn't want you to be alone. He knows that we need each other, you know, to do his will. We need each other not only to do his will on this earth, but for us to get where we need to go personally. You know, so I know we sing songs, and I know that if he got nothing else, you know, he's enough. But I'm not trying to be, you know, sacrilegious here, but we have got to wake up, and we have to be true. We got to be real with ourselves, and stop acting like all we need is Jesus, because that's not the truth. It's not reality. He knows that. He designed the whole relationship thing because he knows we need more than him. If you're alone by yourself all the time and you have no one, but you have Jesus, how's that working out for you? I mean, really, how's that working out for you? Do you have everything you really need? Are you ever lonely? My point is that we have to stop acting like we don't need anybody. We have to start acting like we're okay when we're not. We have to stop acting like we're bigger than what we really are, or we're further along than what we are. That's grandiose thinking. I'm not saying anybody did that tonight. I'm just saying, you know, it doesn't help us. You know, what helps us is letting somebody in and saying, hey, I'm not doing so hot. You know, yeah, I got Jesus, but I need a friend. And so, you know, if you're out there tonight and you got some stuff going on and you need some help, you know, the strong person gets help. The strong person addresses their physical health needs and their mental health needs. It's not a deficiency. A strong, healthy person doesn't think they're further along than where they are. They know that it's okay to be where you are, because that's where Jesus meets you. And so I want to thank everybody for everything they said tonight. And I want to thank you for joining SNL. And I hope that you'll come back.
Hey, Zach, before you sign her off, I want to say a couple things.
Okay.
I want to jump in here and your deal about you know, we got to be careful about the medication deal. And I talked with a person this very week, that had to go away from home into another state, and there was an issue going on, and they were extremely upset, real anxious, just all really worked up. And then they said, and I didn't bring my medication with me. And I know if I had my medication, I'd do better. But I can't get it. And I said, you know that if you don't take your medication, what that's going to force you into doing, because it's going to overwhelm you to the place where you're going to find something, right?
Exactly.
What we call
Exactly.
self-medication. And I said, and you don't, the reason why you don't know because you can have prescriptions sent wherever you're at, no matter what the situation, because people do it all over the world all the time. The reason why you don't know whether you can or not is because you haven't tried. And I know that may sound a little rough, but the fact of it is, you need to do that, because if you don't do that, you're going to you are putting yourself in a bad situation, and and you may not be able to prevent yourself from using other means to help in that situation. And so anyway, to make a long story short, they got the medication. And so I'm just saying that particularly when we're in crisis, that's not the time to try to make that shift. Not that it's not possible. It is possible. People do it all the time, but you have to be careful, or what you'll do is end up self-medicating in another way, whether it's drugs or behaviors or something. So you can clean it up, Zach, if you need to, but I'll pass it back over to you.
That's a really good point, you know, and you know, that's what I call a setup, you know, and not everybody's doing that. Sometimes you just forget, you know, you're busy and you forget, but that's kind of a setup, you know. We do that to ourselves a lot, and sometimes that's conscious or subconscious. And I'm going to tell you some truth, and not, you know, doctors don't like this, you know, but the truth is that street drugs will mask mental health symptoms better than over-the-counter meds will. They will. It's the truth. And the reason why is because they're such high doses that they're so strong that they mask your mental health symptoms greater than anything over the counter. And that's what's so hard for people when they're been self-medicating with illegal street drugs, and you encourage them to get sober and go to the doctor and get something that will help them. That's hard because the legal medicine doesn't do as well of a job. And the truth is that you have to give your body time to come off of the strong stuff and let the other stuff work, because it will. And but that's a good point, Doug. I'm glad you shared that. And you know, we have to plan ahead. If we're going to be gone, we got to plan ahead, and we can't self-sabotage that way. And you know, it's you know, we've got to take care of ourselves. That's so important. And you know, I know that there was a time in mental health when you weren't in control. That's been a long time ago. And I'll make this one more point, and then I'll quit. And I'm not saying this about Alicia. I'm just saying this is about this is a million people all the time. Okay. One of the biggest reasons why people go off their medications is because they don't believe that the doctor will ever help them get off of them. Okay. And so there's a time in my life when I was on 5 medications. I took those medications every day. Okay. And the truth is I probably should have been on more medications, but I wouldn't go get treatment for all my stuff. I would just go get treatment for part of my stuff. You know, you feel me? And so, but you can change. I can't tell anybody they can't get off their meds, and I can't tell anybody they will get off their meds. Okay, because it's directly correlated to the amount of effort that you want to put in. But I won't tell anybody, no matter their diagnosis, that they'll never get off their medication. Okay, because I got off all mine. I don't take any meds anymore. I'm thankful to God for that. But God did not do all that. I did a lot of work. God helped me, but I did a lot of work. And God don't have a problem with me saying that. So if you want to decrease your medication and you want to get off your medication, then you need to go to work. You need to practice some coping skills. You need to change your coping skills. You need to learn some tools. You need to work on yourself. You need to do personal work. You need to get healthy. You need to heal from the trauma of your past. You need to do some work. You need to go to therapy, talk therapy. You talk about your crap that you don't want to do. A lot of people want to take a pill and feel better because they don't really want to talk about the issues, but that's not how you heal. And the medication only works for so long, and they got to keep upping it and upping it and upping it and changing it. A pill will never fix you. Now, medication's good. Medication will give you stability and it will calm you down where you can be peaceful enough to learn this stuff, where you can be relaxed enough to sit in a chair and talk to a therapist. But there's no excuses anymore, guys, because you can't say that they don't listen to me, because you can fire them if they don't listen to you now. You can fire them and get a new one. I can tell you how. So you have all the power to change your situation. We talk about that a lot at SNL. But you have all the power in the world to change your situation, and that's your medication as well. So you don't sit there and buy into that lie that you're never going to get off of this stuff. You want off of it, you want to decrease it, go to work, because you can do it. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. So thanks for being here tonight. We love you. Stay safe out there. We got some really cold weather coming. We got really cold temperatures coming. Know where you're in town here in Joplin. I'll just tell you, because it's so small, there's only 2 warming centers that I know of. Water Garden's open 24 hours a day. Souls Harbor is open from 7:30 p.m. to 7 a.m. I'm unaware of any other place that's open. Salvation Army is not open. There's no churches I'm aware of that are open. So normally this time of year, we have a lot more warming centers. The public library is open normal business hours and you can warm there, but they're closed Monday. I heard a rumor that, not to scare anybody, but I heard a rumor that Liberty Utilities, I guess it's Liberty Utilities now, they may or may not be doing rolling blackouts if they're afraid the power grid is going to go down because of the extreme cold. So just, stay warm, be careful. Last I checked, it's changing like every 2 hours. It's going to be like -11 or -13 degrees. So take care of yourself.